Sunday morning, I overdosed and died. I left my body, crossed over to the other side and was asked if I wanted to come back or if I wanted to stay there. Genuinely didn't know what hunger felt like. When I got sober the first time, it was like, okay, I had this feeling in my stomach and I was like, oh, it's the Friday feeling. I need to go to the pub or I need to go and pick something up, fix this feeling. Probably had enough within me to go, okay, this might be getting a bit out of hand. But the truth is, at that time, I didn't want to stop because I was having fun. It crossed the line at some point where it wasn't fun anymore. All the fun had gone. There was no joy in it. It was literally survival. It was the only thing I knew how to do, even though I knew it was killing me.
And did you have any knowledge at that point? Any knowledge at all of, okay, how do I actually get myself out of it?
I'll be honest, no. Ultimately, it had to get bad enough for me to make the change. First thing on my mind when I woke up, I was going to work literally just to get enough money so I could go drink and use. Unfortunately for me, it had to become a life and death situation.
That experience, perception of a God's afterlife.
I felt myself come out of my body, which I don't have the words for it. I kind of floated up through the ceiling and all of a sudden I was just somewhere else. For me, it was just like pure energy. I was me, but I had no body.
Most people think growth means getting out of the darkness, but what happens after you survive it? Today, I'm joined by Richard Newman to discuss addiction, near-death, spirituality, and the uncomfortable question that follows healing. Who are you when the old identity is gone? If you enjoy this one, support the mission. Please kindly subscribe and leave a review. It helps the show grow, and that means that we can reach more men who are ready to take that next step. Thank you so much. I'm Harrison, and this is the Growth Voyage podcast. Enjoy. Okay, Richard, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on. And I thought the way we could get started was by thinking about growth and healing. Right, quite a broad term. And I think when people discuss growth and healing, they very little or not so often they talk about actually what that entails and what actually happens during that time. So what did your path demand from you that you didn't expect?
That's a good question. So I think growth and healing are very much interlinked, and it's an important, they track alongside each other. And along my path, I would say that the main thing that is demanded of me that I didn't realize before I started, I guess there was a naive assumption that if I make this lifestyle change, everything will be fine and things will get easier. But it wasn't the case. So it was very much, for myself, it started with sobriety. So I thought, okay, cool, well, if I stop drinking and using, things will be easier. And they were in some respects, but then there was nowhere left to run. So, then life becomes a real thing. There's no escape, which is what I had beforehand. So I think that's the main thing that I wasn't entirely prepared for.
I see. So in many ways, that was it was almost kind of like a surface layer thing in your journey, right? So you think, right, if I get rid of these, then okay, that's the problem. Whereas actually that's just a plaster for the wound, essentially.
Yeah, very much so.
So did you find that as soon as you didn't engage in whatever these activities were, suddenly all these emotions were brought to the surface then?
Yeah, I was so disconnected from myself, from life, from feelings, emotions for such an extended period that when I put down what I was using as medicine to combat that, I was just overwhelmed by all of this stuff. Like, I mean, a little insight to how disconnected I was from my own feelings and myself. I genuinely didn't know what hunger felt like, because when I got sober the first time, it was like, okay, I had this feeling in my stomach and I was like, oh, it's the Friday feeling. Like, I feel like I need to go to the pub, or I need to go and pick something up, or I need to go and, fix this feeling. I was hungry, but I didn't know what that was because it had been such a long time and I was so disconnected, because anything that I felt for well over a decade, I numbed any feeling at all. So, yeah.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because perhaps you look right now and you're probably thinking, oh, our body actually tells us so much about what's going on. It gives us a feeling, it gives us almost a sense of direction in a way. It's always communicating with us. And I imagine when you are disconnected, you're not going to be getting those signals. So I'm interested to hear in hearing more about that transition then. So you said you'd gone sober. What was that process like? Because from experience and also talking with a lot of men, it's never like a one time, okay, right, we're done, we're through. Sometimes it's half a dozen, 7, 8, 9. Sometimes it will take 14, 15 times. We're trying to get back on track before we get into it. Was that a similar story for yourself?
Yeah, it was very much a journey of, as you say, trying to, for me, pinpoint the problem, because it was over there somewhere, right? So, okay, well, when I drink, then I want to take this, but the drugs are the problem. So if I can stop doing those, everything will be fine and I can carry on with my life as it is. So I'll put that down, then that becomes a problem. So then I'm using excessively in other areas or fixing in different ways. So I've not made any changes. I feel like I'm addressing the problem, but I'm just kind of moving it around and covering it up in different ways. And that went on for quite a while, of getting to a point where I finally felt like I understood. It's like, okay, well, maybe the problem isn't out there. Maybe it never was, but it took a long time and a lot of experimenting to land at that.
I love that conclusion. Like, it's very, I think, easy for us to have a look at our external world. I think, yeah, that's the reason why I'm feeling a certain way. That's the reason why I'm stuck. But then the shift happens when you actually realize, mate, like, this hasn't worked. What's the common denominator?
That's it. I mean, I kind of run out of ideas of what else it could be. I'd kind of gone through every iteration of where the problem may land, except for myself. And then I was kind of left with that. And, I can look back over my life and come up with untold justifications for my behaviors and what I did to cope with the circumstances that I found myself in. Some of them may be reasonable, but, everyone goes through stuff. So in hindsight, they weren't justifications, but at the time they were. And yeah, I had to run out of ideas of where the problem lay before I was able to look at myself, and that was quite an uncomfortable thing to be left with.
I can imagine, because I think especially as men, we have an instinct that we want to solve things.
Yeah.
And so when we can't solve things, when we don't have an answer, yeah, it kind of like, it's essentially an ego death in a way. Is that you can't really hold on to anything anymore. It's all just kind of being pulled away from you. Out of interest, what was the decision that you made to actually want to shift something, to want to make a difference in your life? Because I speak with guys quite often, and sometimes they're aware that they have, that something's not quite right,
Mm-hmm.
that they perhaps could be feeling more at peace or fulfilled, but they kind of stay in the same cycle, the same nights out, the same calling the same number to go and pick up, and hanging around the same toxic environment. So what made you essentially have enough of that and look to shift things?
I mean, ultimately, it had to get bad enough for me to make the change. Because if it was just, I went out, I did a bit too much, kind of maybe I blacked out, caused some trouble, upset some people, whatever, whatever unfolded from that, the consequences. So, cool, no problem. We'll just kind of do it again next week. But for me, it got to a point of, it was every day, all day, every day. It was the last thing on my mind when I went to sleep, which wasn't much. First thing on my mind when I woke up, I was going to work literally just to get enough money so I could go drink and use. So it really had to become, unfortunately for me, it had to become a life and death situation for me to go, it had to become that black and white. What do you want to do here? Because if you keep doing this, this is only ending one way. I was very quickly running out of chances. So it was fix up or you're going out in a box, basically, because it doesn't end well. Wow. It had to get bad enough for me. And sitting here now talking to you, I'm grateful that happened. Maybe it would have been easier if I could have caught it earlier on and, made some changes at an earlier age, but they all led me here, I think there were chances when I was younger, probably had enough within me to go, okay, this might be getting a bit out of hand. But the truth is at that time, I didn't want to stop because I was having fun. It crossed the line at some point where it wasn't fun anymore. All the fun had gone. There was no joy in it. It was literally survival. It was the only thing I knew how to do. Even though I knew it was killing me and what the fallout was going to be, it was the only option I had to soothe myself in some kind of way every day, because without it, I just crumbled.
And did you have any knowledge at that point? Any knowledge at all of, okay, how do I actually get myself out of it?
I'll be honest, no. So, where I grew up and the way that I used to drink and use, I didn't stand out much in the people around me. Everyone was kind of doing the same thing. And my family have a big history of addiction and alcoholism, and it's taken many lives in my family. And no one ever got clean. No one ever stopped. And no one has until this point apart from me. But no one's also ever admitted that it was a problem. So that was a bit of an issue because I'm seeing people around me, those close to me, those that I love and care about, drinking destructively, destroying themselves and their families and ultimately drinking themselves to death. But nobody ever had the conversation of that's not normal or that's not right or they're an alcoholic or that's an issue. So me doing what I was doing, I'm like, well, I'm just kind of doing my thing, right? So there was no roadmap out for me. I had no one around me that ever got sober, stayed sober, admitted they had a problem or made that kind of lifestyle change. Everyone just stayed in the same places doing the same thing from start to finish. And they're still there now.
That's a great point, isn't it? If no one's questioned what's going on, that's going to be your normal. That's just going to be, this is why the belief system's so crazy, isn't it? Because all you see is all there is, in a way. So where you didn't have any real concept of how to change, transform, whatever it may be, but there came the point where you had enough. So where did that search lead you, and how many different avenues did you have to go through before finding what worked for you?
So I explored a few different things. Initially, I settled on that. Well, when I decided that drugs were the problem, if I deal with those, I'll be fine. I sought some help from a hypnotist who has experience in helping people with drug addiction. So I went to go and see him and had, weekly sessions. And I wasn't using for a while. I was still drinking every day. I would finish work early, go and have a few beers, and then go and have my hypnotherapy session to kind of stop taking drugs. And so I started there. I began meditating, reading books, tried to put everything down myself. And I'm going to meditate. I'm going to get in touch with myself a bit more. I'm going to kind of do this. That worked for a few weeks, maybe. And then my search landed me in 12-step recovery. And that was the thing that changed everything for me. Because as I say, up until this point, the life that I was living, people saw snapshots of it that I allowed them to see when I was with them, but it was the stuff I did on my own when no one was around, when everyone went home at the end of the night and I'm up for days by myself, locked in my room. These are the things that I couldn't share with people. When I found 12-step recovery, I'm now I've genuinely believed I was the only one that did this. And if I share it with people, I'm going to be like ostracized and, kicked out of the tribe, and no one's ever going to speak to me again. 12-step recovery changed all of that. Immediately, I was in a room with 30 other people that lived the way that I did, but weren't doing it anymore. I was like, wow, okay, I've found my people. And that started me on the road.
Well, there's so many massive shifts there just from what you've just said. It's, I think, the belonging piece, knowing that you can be fully yourself, you can be seen, you don't have to hide anything. Like, that's already, I think, a game changer for many guys. Suddenly, it's not about trying to fit in to a place where you don't belong. It's just be you, and then you find your people. There's also another element to that, which is, well, if people have been on the same journey you have, then you can believe change is possible.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, if you haven't seen anyone in your family change or even spoken about changing, you're not going to believe that it's possible. So there's two elements to there, just straight off the bat, where I think it's just, crucial.
Yeah.
Absolutely crucial.
That was one of the most important things for me, was that shared experience, because I can articulate very well what happens in the mind of somebody in addiction and what the lifestyle looks like and kind of how dark and seedy that can be. But for somebody that hasn't lived it, thankfully, they can't really understand, because objectively it doesn't make sense. It's like, why would you do that? And why wouldn't you just stop? But there's whereas somebody who has been there, that's what I found with the 12-step thing. It's like, I'm in this deep hole that I dug for myself, but I can't get out of it, and I don't know the way, and no one seems to be able to show me. I entered into that recovery space, and people jumped in the hole with me and was like, I've been here too, I know what it looks like, follow me, we can get out this way. And that's what, really saved my life at that point.
And another thing where that came up just now was that you were willing to be helped as well, which is a whole other process in and of itself.
Yeah.
A lot of the time we think that we can do it by ourselves, or there's this resistance to want someone else to help us. That's seen as a weakness, but it sounds as soon as you found that group, you were all in.
So I was, but so initially I went there, and it was bad enough for me to arrive, but I didn't just kind of walk in there with open arms and go, I'm here, lads, help me out kind of thing. It was, I arrived at the first meeting I ever went to, I arrived early, and I was sat over the road, and I was scoping out the place, because I'm like, I need to, but I don't want to. And there was a huge resistance to me even entering the building. I eventually managed to get myself in there, which took every ounce of courage that I had within me at that time. Just to walk in there is an admittance that there is something up. I didn't speak to anybody. didn't look anyone in the eye. I just sat at the back with my hood up and just growled at people. And it was very much like, I'm here, but stay away. Like, this isn't safe, like, back off kind of thing. But I kept going for a couple of weeks because I liked what I was hearing, because I knew I was in the right place, but I didn't, I couldn't make that next step. After a couple of weeks, the obsession to use returned. I didn't go to a meeting. I didn't call anyone. I went and did what I always did. And that was a thing that changed. It was the fallout from that internally that led me to then go back and then put my hand up and go, I need help, which was the hardest thing at that time in my life that I've ever done. Because, as we've sort of touched on, it's not something I was shown or taught to ask for help in any capacity, really. Like, maybe if you needed to pick something heavy up, you'd ask for help, but you're having an emotional problem or a life problem, you just, pull your socks up and you get on with it. And you just put your head down and you keep going. So for me to kind of sit there and do that was so scary, and I felt so exposed. But the help came. It was there. And that has been my experience since then. It's the fear of asking for help is always harder to ask for than it is to receive. Because any time that I've truly needed it and put my hand up and asked for it, it's been there in any capacity since then. But it's always that asking first. It's so difficult.
Yeah, it does make me think, because when I started going to men's circles at first, now, because I've been to so many and I host my own, it's kind of just, okay. But then actually I put myself in the shoes of someone going to them for the first time. It is quite nerve-wracking. Like, if you're not used to going up, meeting new people, especially if you're introverted, let alone all this probably shame and guilt you're probably carrying in the first place, it's a real step up. And I want to dive deeper into this moment. So what it sounds like, you're on the sidelines, hood up, kind of keeping your distance. And at that point, maybe there's a part of you that thinks, do I really need this? And am I meant to be here? But then when you have a setback, that's almost the shift that you needed. It's like, okay, now I actually have to do this in a way.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I was very much, so when I initially went, it was the usual pattern of keeping everyone and everything at arm's length. It's like, I'm here, but you're not coming close enough to, affect me in any way. And that's just the way I lived my life at that point, right? It was just keep everyone at arm's length. Don't let anyone close enough to hurt you or help you in this case. I knew I was in the right place, but yeah, to make that next, again, things had to get bad enough. So the slip that I had after those 2 weeks, and it reminded me actually what you said, after a few days of not using or drinking, I started to think, was it that bad? Maybe it wasn't that bad. I don't know. Maybe I'm making a bit of a fuss about it. Maybe it's not even really that much of a thing. I feel all right now. It'll be okay. Yeah, it was, when I had the slip wasn't huge, like quantity wise. It was what it did to me internally, because now I'd seen that there was a way out. Up until that point, there was no other option, right? I'm just doing my thing. Now I've seen the way out and I've chosen not to take it, and I've done this instead. It ruined me internally. I couldn't, I just struggled to function after that. And the fallout in the following days were just like really dark thoughts, and kind of, I was thinking about ending it all, man. I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. And I had a spiritual experience within that, which was like life-changing at that point, to be honest. It's kind of like a spiritual experience at gunpoint. I'd backed myself into a corner, and it was like, now you really have no other way out. You're either going to do all of this, the recovery stuff, because that is the way for you right now, or you're going to use and you're going to die. Like, what do you want to do? You know, so I had a moment where called out to a God that I didn't think existed, cared about me if it did, and asked for help. And, you know, things were lifted off of me in that moment. And I basically made a deal. I was like, look, if I don't want to die here, like, help me out, and I'll go to a meeting tomorrow and I'll get help. And I'll do the thing, like, wherever it is I'm in, like, I will do whatever I have to do. But please take this darkness off of me now, because I can't hold it anymore. As if the lights came back on, it was lifted off of me. And I went to a meeting the next day. And yeah, at the end of the meeting, it was like, I was the only one looking for a sponsor. And I was like, both hands in the air, doing the Team America secret signal, like, help, please. And yeah, help came, man. Help came. And then, yeah, life got real.
Wow. It's like you had a conversation with God in a way. And it's amazing, isn't it? Didn't really have any prior belief beforehand by the sounds of it. And yet it was at your most vulnerable. You kind of just had to, it's like a last chance call for help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'd be really interested to dive into like how that unlocked a certain pathway in your brain and a belief system, a belief in something greater than yourself. Do you think at that moment when things just suddenly shifted and this weight was taken off you, that give you some life maybe? Or did it connect you straight away to something greater than yourself? Or did that take time?
There was definitely a build-in. I mean, the experience itself was undeniable. Like, I knew what had happened, but I couldn't unpick it intellectually. But my body and my spirit knew what had happened. I had no belief in anything before, wasn't religious, wasn't spiritual, didn't pray, none of that stuff. I didn't go to church. It was not on my radar. But sitting in meetings and listening to people talking about what God had done for them or a power greater than themselves. Yeah, I think in that moment, just opened things up for me. Again, my world had become so insular, and it was just me in this little dark bubble destroying myself. And the world was this harsh place that I just had to try and navigate and survive. And all of a sudden, within this moment, I knew that there was more at play here. Like, there's so much more going on than I ever thought was happening. And it made me curious. And yeah, as I continued, I knew what had happened, but I kind of didn't really understand it. And I didn't know where to go with it from there. Thankfully, the 12-step program is quite instructive and it gives you ways and options of, you know, it's suggestions of things you can do to try and make that connection and to, you know, connect with this power, whatever it may be for you. You know, it suggests meditation and certain prayers and things like that, and being of service and thinking about other people for once, which was a revelation in itself.
Interesting, because I've had a thought for a while that spirituality is an incremental part of the healing process, and in anyone's transformation journey. So it's interesting to hear that they were actively pushing for that. And also on the point of spirituality, I don't think there's one set definition of it. I think when we talk about what spirituality actually is, in some regards it seems like it could just be whatever that is to you, whatever you make of it, whatever experiences you want to make out of it. But it does seem like it's a crucial part of the process. Yeah. But it's interesting you mentioned stuff like meditation there, because you alluded to how previously you were trying a bit of meditation and stuff, then that kind of fell off. Do you think you perhaps weren't quite ready to implement it into your life at that stage?
I think the intention behind the meditation changed. When I initially started investigating that stuff and looking at meditation and reading books on Buddhism, the first time that I meditated, I felt really good afterwards, but it was almost like, it felt like a bit of a fix kind of thing. So I was using meditation at that time as an escape, in the same way that I would use anything else, right? You know, reality's painful. I don't understand it. It's confusing me. I'm going to check out for a little while. And then after having that spiritual experience and moving down this spiritual path with regards to recovery, the intention had changed. I wasn't trying to escape anymore. I was looking to connect and to understand and to grow. That was the shift there. Initially it was very ungrounded meditation. It wasn't about being in the body and how is this going to help me with my life. It was, I can feel all floaty for 10 minutes and check out for a little while. It was a big intention shift.
Yeah, intention is everything, really. So you go into the program and you follow the process, you're connecting to spirituality a bit more, finding more answers, perhaps. Talk to me about that road then. Did you feel like that got you to a steady baseline, would you say? And yeah, what was I say fallout after that, but yeah, I'm interested to hear about the perspective shifts in your mind, because at this point it's like your sole focus is to right, just get me out of this. And I think that can be quite a really cool place to be, because you're dedicating your whole time and energy to growth and healing. Whereas I think when you get to a steady baseline, maybe, and you just go back into life, this is just my perspective, you're going to have maybe a job, you're going to have other responsibilities. It might not necessarily be a priority for you, or at least you're not going to give 100% of your energy just to that one thing. So I'm keen to hear how your perspective started shifting, not only during that process, but then off the back of that as well.
Yeah, as you say, that was life. You know, I would get up, go to work, do my job, come home, quickly get changed, go to a meeting, and I was there most days of the week. Weekends, all my friends, my new friends were in, the recovery circle, and that was my focus because it kind of needed to be. I was still working at the time. It enabled me to enter into a new relationship, which at that time was the healthiest relationship I'd ever experienced, which was amazing. And I learned so much kind of being in that. It felt very safe. It was, to me, to exist in the world in a much better place. Being able to hold conversations and speak in front of people and understand myself better and be of service to others and help other people out. A lot happened after about 3.5 years for me in my personal life. I think where I am now, the change in me now, I don't go to meetings anymore. I'm not actively part of the 12-step recovery. I don't consider myself in recovery. That's just not what I do anymore. Drinking and using is a choice. It's just not what I do. I know what happens. It's not, I must do this thing every day to maintain that. Now I'm just kind of living my life. But yeah, for the first sort of 3 years, I was heavily, heavily involved, at all levels, doing all kinds of service, setting up conventions, opening new meetings, speaking at conventions and working in prisons and taking meetings in there to the inmates that can't get out and visiting rehabs and stuff like that. And it was incredible. It was very, it did become its own bubble in a very different way, in a more healthy and wholesome way. I'm looking to grow, and I'm going to a place where I'm actively engaged in getting better. On several times a week, I'm talking about the problem. I'm still kind of feeding it. I'm not doing it. I'm not engaged in it anymore. And at that time, I'd been clean for like 3.5 years. So I was a long way away from it, but still talking about it. So I hadn't really gone that far from it. I had, but I hadn't. Energetically, it was still kind of there, and I'm still sort of feeding the beast because it's in conversation all the time. It's part of the reason why in the last 2 years I've started to move away from that, because if it's not a problem, why am I talking about it still? This is interesting.
Something I've reflected on myself recently, when we talk about the transformation journey, if you're always talking about your lowest point, yeah, you're kind of staying there in a way. It's an interesting one, and it kind of touches upon like the healing process as well, and what that looks like for different people. Perhaps you could say, do people perhaps stay in the past too long? Do they like go through and sort of stay there without a vision forward? And I imagine in your program, a part of that, I'm not sure, but I imagine a big part of that was actually, what's your vision? What are you going to do in the future? What are you building towards? And I see that as something really important. Whereas if you're only focused on like healing the whole time and getting over this and that, well, that's where your energy is going. That's where your focus is going. It would make sense that you're going to stay there. Was that the mindset for you as well?
It did get to that point, yeah. Felt like I got to a stage where it was almost like going to therapy, talking about a problem, and we unpack it and we understand all of the lessons from it and the patterns that came from it, and all every top to bottom and inside out, it's been gone through, and like I know it intimately and I understand it in every way that I possibly can. Then why would I keep going back to that therapy session to have that same conversation? It's like, well, if that's dealt with, who am I now? What do I want for my life? Who am I without all of this stuff? Are all of the things that I used to do for fun, do I actually still like them? Were I doing them because I could then stay in the environments that I was in? Who am I? Became the question for me. All that stuff stripped away. And if I'm still, as you say, talking about my lowest point, I'm still identified with that. And yes, that happened. It's, a vital part of my life that got me to where I am. And I will talk about it with anybody. But it's not my sole focus. It happened. And it's a part of who I am. But who I am now isn't that. I'm to define who I am now. And I get to learn about me and what I like to do, and places I like to go and things I like to enjoy, which became difficult if I'm sat in the same church hall having the same conversation 3 times a week with the same people. It's just a personal thing, man. Like, I know people that have been there for decades and are happy and they have their family and everything's wonderful for them, and God bless them. They are doing the best for them. The stage for me, I'm like, doesn't fit anymore. It's, it just didn't fit. So I had to walk in the opposite direction, and the door's always open, I can step back in at any time, but I'm over here exploring a little bit, I've done for a while now.
How did you go about that process of answering the question, who am I? Where'd you even start?
That's such a complicated and deep question. Start of doing that for me was at my past, looking at the patterns of behavior that stemmed from me making mistakes and falling short in areas of my life, and kind of working through those, been away from those kind of things, making better choices for myself, looking after myself in different ways. It's important for me to regularly question or kind of hold up to the light the structures that I have in my life, or ideas I have about myself, and potentially my belief systems or opinions I have about things, or what it is that I enjoy to do for fun. Like, I'll give you an example. When I basically grew up in a pub, pretty much. Like, my mum worked in there all the time. I was always in there, always in the pub, always, playing darts, pool, watching the football. I was in football mad. When I stopped drinking, pretty much stopped watching football. I realised it's like, well, I don't actually care that much. I used to live and die by the results. And, you know, I got into many altercations with people because they supported a different team. And it was, looking at it now, it seems insane to me. But at the time, it was just, that was life, right? But now and as I said, moving along the road a little bit, that was the first big thing that I looked at and thought, that doesn't fit anymore. That's not me. So what do I actually like? And then it's exciting, but also overwhelming. It's exciting because you've got all of the options, but it's almost like option paralysis. Like what do you want to do? You can do literally anything. What do you want to do? I don't know. Like, how do you even start? It can be a lot.
I really relate to, you mentioned about the football there. I was a Spurs fan as a kid, and I used to get in arguments. Were you? Yeah. Well, we're probably involved in the same type of arguments. So it was crazy, man. I'd go onto Facebook and I would be effing and blinding, and my mum would say, "Harrison, you can't post this stuff online." But it was at school. At school, I was like, we're the only Spurs fan, and it was like, I was so passionate about it. And then as I'd gotten older, I was like, okay, it was still there. And then as soon as I stopped drinking, I tried sitting through a game. I thought, do you know what? I'd rather be doing something else. I'd rather be like reading or like anything else. And like now, even now, I've tried to get back into it. Because my old man likes football, and it's a way of spending time with him. And I went to a game. I think it was Spurs versus Chelsea. So I thought, oh, that sounds like a nice game to go to. I was so bored. I was so bored. I was sat there. I thought, I really can't. Like, I'm feeling all this like energy and anger from the crowd, and I just felt so apart from it. And I really wanted to get into it, but it just it wasn't for me. And I think anyone on a growth journey, if you like really want to change, I would say like stop drinking for at least 6 months, a year, just see what happens. And gradually, I think you will notice so many shifts in your life. And I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's a absolute must. I would say if you're like really serious about changing your life, even if it's not an addiction, it could be, even if you don't think you're addicted, it's just a solid thing to do. I didn't personally think I had an addiction with alcohol, but what was I doing every weekend at university? I was drinking it was like 700 milliliters of rum, and that was before going out. And I'd have beer and shots, and it's like, well, what? That's not normal. You can tell yourself, like we were discussing before, you can tell yourself it's normal, but what are you trying to escape from? You'd say it's for fun, but why can't you have fun without it?
Well, how much fun is it if you can't remember what happened? Is that fun? Like, I mean, yeah, it's a fair point just to have that, for anybody, just to have that break and that reset, and to just see what life's all about. When I first stopped, I would still go to the pub and I would still see my friends, and they're just having the same conversation that they had last week and the week before, shouting at the TV. I was just like, it just doesn't feel nice. It's not, the atmosphere is not for me. The conversations are not, I don't want to talk about beer and birds and football. Like, it's not doing it for me anymore. So everything had to change. It wasn't just, let's put that down. It's an exploration of, life can be anything you want, really, and create anything. Like where I am now, if you'd have said this to me 10 years ago, I would have laughed at you. It's just like, are you mad? There's no way this would be my life, or what I would even choose to do with my life at this point.
So what are you doing now then, and how did you get into it? You mentioned before you had analysis paralysis in a way. Like, who do I become now that this other stuff doesn't interest me anymore? Did you go searching for a purpose or a mission, or was the attitude, let's just try everything?
I think it flitted between the two. So a bit of context of kind of what happened. So there's over for about 3.5 years, and everything was good. Like I had a job, I was in a relationship, had somewhere to live, and everything seemed okay. My dad wasn't very well at the time. He passed away suddenly. It was very difficult. Like me and my uncle found him. It was a whole thing. And then just before the funeral, my girlfriend at the time ended the relationship. I had nowhere to live. Like life kind of exploded around me. I stayed sober. Was a little bit lost, but just kind of kept my head down and kept plodding along. I went to a convention, a recovery convention. I was the opening speaker on the Saturday. There's like hundreds of people there speaking in front of everyone. I was terrified. I did that. It was cool. Woke up on the Sunday morning and I was like, I don't feel right. Something feels off. Felt really weird. I started to hear voices in my head. Not like something they were originating from inside my head. It's like, what is happening here? Went downstairs, kind of spoke to a couple of people and was like, something's not good. So they came around me and they looked after me and things just kind of progressed anyway. Long story short, I ended up in hospital. They let me go home. About 4 days later, I had to call the crisis line. I was like, I need help, like now, because this is bad. Like I'm a danger to myself and other people. Like I need help. They came, I went and spent some time in an institution, sober, got diagnosed with psychosis, all these kind of things. Heavily medicated, trying to muddle through for a little while. Medication wasn't helping. After a few months of this, I did end up having a few drinks again. Because, I was, searching for purpose and for me, and I didn't know what was going on, and I wasn't getting any better. And then just thought, you know what, fuck it. I was already in an awkward state of mind with all the medication. It wasn't a big leap for me to go and have a drink. That initiated this kind of bouncing in and out for about 6 months of getting a few weeks, going again, getting a month, going again. That led to my last, bender for want of a better word. My intention was, I'm going for 2 beers on a Friday lunchtime. And I started and I couldn't stop. And then it was just, things got out of hand. And then Sunday morning, I overdosed and died. And had a full near-death experience. I left my body, crossed over to the other side, had this whole barren experience, and was asked if I wanted to come back or if I wanted to stay there. And I was just like, I kind of want to stay. This is pretty nice, to be honest. It was hard. It was a difficult decision to make because it was that place. It was just love and joy that I didn't know existed. And obviously, I made the choice. I came back because I didn't want to be found and go out like that. I didn't want to do that to my family. Yeah, I made the choice. I was brought back. And what really started things for me is like, well, now I've sort of peeked behind the curtain of what's really going on here. What am I doing here? Like, this can't have been for nothing. So where do I go? I didn't know what way was up. Right, I had a new lease for life, and then I kind of didn't, and it all felt a bit futile, and it was difficult integration period, which has been going on for a long time. And that trying to figure out where am I going with life now, because everything's changed now. Nothing's off the table, but I don't know what I want to do. I went traveling for a bit, and went to Southeast Asia. I spent some time out there, met some amazing people, had some conversations. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was trying all these really cool things, man. I tried scuba diving and I was doing all this. And I'm like, how could I keep doing this and stay here? And there's something more here. I need to do something. I missed a bit out in there. So before I went traveling, after I had this near-death experience, I was still left with the voices in my head. But I knew there was something inside telling me this isn't a medical problem. there's something else going on here. Like, you need spiritual help. And I'm like, okay. I didn't really know what that meant. But I knew what I felt and I went with it. So I got in touch. A friend of mine recommended a healer that he knew, who he trusted with these kind of things. I didn't know what I was getting myself in for. Had a chat with this guy. So laid it all out. I was like, look, this is the situation. He's like, okay, cool. So I'm going to go away and do my investigations, like psychically, meditation, whatever he was going to do. I'll come back with some information. You read through it. I'll give you a proposed like action plan of what we can do. If it makes sense, we'll go ahead. He's like, if you think it's all nonsense, just tell me. I won't be offended and it's cool. We'll go our separate ways and there's no harm done. I'm like, okay, cool. So he did his thing. He came back, gave me all this information and he's like, yeah, you're not hallucinating. Like, there's stuff around you that's what you're hearing, and we need to do some clearing of your energy. We need to get rid of these negative spirits that are around you. And I'm like, okay. Like, I knew it was right. It was way out there for anything I'd experienced at this point, but it landed. I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. So I said, go ahead. He was like, right, I'll get it done in the next couple of days. He did. I wasn't even with the guy. I never met him face to face. He did his thing. And overnight, stopped. My head was quiet. It had never been that quiet in my life. Like, ever. It was just peace. And God. And, yeah, he kind of gave me some tools to manage my energy and make sure these kind of things didn't happen again. So I took those and I went off traveling and had a wonderful time and was just exploring life and was trying to figure out where I go and what I'm here for. Because I had no idea. It was like a whole new world. Just got blown open at that point.
There's several things that have come out of that. Different paths we can go down. I wanted to touch upon this near-death experience first. So you experienced that it was just such a wonderful place. What do you remember from that experience, and in terms of your perception of a God's afterlife, what conclusion, if any, did you derive from that?
Experience itself of Overdose and my body dying part was very traumatic, but kind of peaceful at the same time. There was a bizarre peace. Like, I felt it happening, felt my body stopping, felt my heart stop. I was terrified but peaceful. It was a very bizarre thing. The experience itself, I felt myself come out of my body, which I don't have the words for it. I would, I don't know, say like my soul left my body and I could see myself laying there. I kind of floated up through the ceiling and all of a sudden I was just somewhere else. I didn't see any physical forms. For me, it was just like pure energy. I was me, but I had no body. Everything was just energy and I could see it all rushing by and just joy and it just love, and it felt like home in a way that I've never felt home anywhere in my life. And I don't remember asking questions, but I had answers to questions that I didn't really ask. And it was like, well, this is where you come from. This is where you're going back to. Anyone that's ever passed over is absolutely fine. And this is where they are. Like, this is home. This is where we all come from. Like, there's nothing to fear. Death isn't the end. Which was amazing. Like, I don't fear death anymore because it's not the end. And I know because I've kind of been there. Like, it's not an abstract thing anymore. So I got some information, but it was still, how I liken it to is almost like taking a practical test without doing any of the theory. I was just in this place. I had no idea where I was, what was going on. I'd never experienced anything like it. Nobody told me anything about it. I didn't have any context, and it was kind of overwhelming, but beautiful at the same time.
So it wasn't You couldn't really put it down to words in a way.
Words are not really, they leave it wanting a little bit for, like, there's an accurate description of the feeling that is that place. Words can't do it justice.
And when you said you had a choice to stay there or return back here, explain that.
Being there for some time, I don't know, like, the concept of time isn't a real thing from that experience. It was just, it's like the title of that movie, right? Everything, everywhere, all at once. That's how it felt. And after however long it was, I just got presented with a question. There was no judgment at all, like zero judgment. So what do you want to do? Completely my choice. Do you want to stay or do you want to go?
And where did this voice come from?
It was just like, I just felt the question almost telepathically. I just kind of felt it. It wasn't a spoken voice or from something over there. It was just in the ether. Yeah, and there was no judgment. It was just completely my choice. It was just, what do you want to do? And I wrestled with that question because I never felt so good, like, ever. It was just incredible. And I was still me, but I was somewhere else and I didn't have this body. And yeah, like I say, no judgment. It was no, you've been a very naughty boy and let's have a look at all this. That wasn't my experience. And I wrestled with the idea of staying for a while. And yeah, even in that moment, experiencing that level of love and joy and just amazingness, I still had a conscience that I couldn't do that. So that would have been the most selfish thing I have ever done in my entire life, to check out like that because I felt good, and to let my family deal with the aftermath of finding me like that. I'm just like, nah, I can't do that. I want to stay, but I can't. So yeah, I made the choice, and then I don't really remember what. I was just kind of back, and a long time had passed, and I was just back, and I just sort of woke up and was all right. Felt okay. It was bizarre.
How long were you clinically dead?
So there wasn't, I was alone at the time, so there wasn't like an ambulance come resuscitate me or anything like that. So I felt at the time when it happened, my heart was doing some weird stuff and I couldn't get up. I was just floored, couldn't move. My heart was doing some crazy arrhythmia, and then there were gaps in my heartbeat, and then it would do something crazy and then it would stop. And then eventually it just stopped. And I felt this wave of not even numbness. It was like my body started to disappear, starting at my feet, coming all the way up my body. Like I felt my heart had stopped beating, and it just made its all the way up to the top of my head. And then I was separated from my body. It was just bizarre. Yeah.
The aftermath of this then, once you've experienced this, is it quite difficult to then integrate back into human form? Like, where do you go from there, and how do you stay grounded in this 3D world when you've just experienced that? Like, and you see the illusions of what we're experiencing now. Like, talk me through that tension, because that's I can imagine that's not straightforward, or perhaps it gave you a new lease of life in a way.
There's been a lot of back and forth on that over the years. That was almost 4 years ago now. So it's been a journey. Like initially, the first, I think maybe say 2 weeks or so, I was full of a zest for life. I'm like, this is amazing. I've got another chance. Like, let's go. And everything was cool. And I was so happy, and just everything looked better than it ever had. Food tasted amazing. Everything I did was just so joyous and wonderful because I was so happy to be alive. And then, yeah, as you say, there was something, when it landed, the experience landed a little bit more. I was looking around at the world around me and my life, and I'm just like, it all feels a little bit futile and a bit kind of pointless, really. I'm like, what's this all about? Why is all this going on? And kind of, it was really hard to navigate looking at the world or even just day-to-day life. I'm like, how do you go and do a weekly shop after that? Just walking around the supermarket looking at people thinking, like, what? I was there and then I'm back here and then it's just day-to-day stuff again. It's been difficult, and I've definitely kind of gone back and forth of, life's amazing and everything's a blessing, and it is, and I believe that and I know that to be true, but also we've seen what I have and experienced what I have, but having a glimpse at the vastness of existence can make all of this madness seem a bit pointless.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Which kind of led on to me trying to figure out, well, why am I here? Because if all of that's happened to me for nothing, because I know loads of people that have overdosed, have been clinically dead, revived a bunch of times, never had that experience, and I know loads of people that overdosed and died and never didn't come back, and I don't know if they had that experience. So I'm not like, oh, well, I'm special and different and I'm better than anybody else, but that has to be for something. Left me baffled for a long time. Just like, what do I do? Because it can't just be for me to go back to a 9-to-5 regular job. Like, there's got to be something else going on. That's what led me seeking my purpose and kind of some reason for why I'm here. Which, yeah, it's been interesting.
And where is that then led you?
So ultimately, yeah, it led me to many different places around the world, which has been great. Trying to understand this place myself. It's been a fantastic way of growing and deepening just my experience of life. It all led me back to the UK. And I actually ended up, so what happened was I was in Thailand and I just kind of knew that I had some sensitivities and some gifts for certain things, with the work I did with this healer who helped me out with the voices and stuff, right? He's like, he explained some stuff to me about, everyone is psychic, right? Anyone can train these abilities, but there are some people that are naturally slightly more gifted in certain areas, right? If you come from a family of concert pianists, chances are you might be slightly better attuned playing the piano than most people, but anyone can have a go, right? And I just got to a point where I felt like if I just continue to navigate life and just keep everything kind of boxed off and I'm good now, because I was in the best place I'd ever been in my life. If I just keep things kind of shut down and I don't have to interact or I don't have to worry about other people's energy and I can just manage my energy and just move through life and be at peace. Even though I have these gifts, it felt a little selfish. I'm like, I can help people. I've been through some stuff. I've got some experience. There's got to be a way for me to give back. Not now, knowing what I know now, that's opened up a whole other thing, right? Rather than just sponsoring people in recovery. I know there's more. So I came back from Thailand at the time, got in touch with this healer again and was having a conversation about potential next steps. I'm like, what can I do? And there are so many options of courses and training and this and that. And, I found one course and I read through it and I'm like, this is it. It was a 2-year energy healing course with the International School of Intuition and Healing. And they teach you how to be a healer and how to, help heal other people. But it was very much, it's not just we're going to give you some information, you go and help others. So it's a personal healing journey along the way. Like it's a deep dive into you, because when you understand you and you clear your stuff out of the way, you become a better channel to help other people. So that was the journey that I embarked on with them. So that was like nearly 2 years of training there. I started to explore So from my own sort of personal practice, I practiced Qigong for a few years, which is, if you don't know what it is so Tai Chi, most people know about. So Tai Chi is a type of Qigong. So it's using movement, breath, and intention to work with your energy. You can send it around your body and release emotions and tension and things like that. And it's for health and longevity. There are different types. There are martial arts styles. The Shaolin use it to like break spears with their neck and stuff like that. So there's many different applications. So I trained to become a Qigong instructor. So I went down that path. I made my personal practice now a vocation. I went on this 2-year healing journey with the school, and now I'm a qualified healer and I'm able to help other people. And I went to India last year and did my 200-hour yoga teacher training, and I did a sound healing course. And like, I didn't know that I wanted to do any of this stuff. It just kind of happened in an extraordinary, coincidental way, but I don't believe in coincidences. Everything just kind of aligned because I was listening. Like I had some intuition, and I've moved. Like I heard it and I'm like, right, let's go home. Let's figure some stuff out. And I came back. And yeah, it's been a bit of a wild ride then. So now I'm able to, a breadth of knowledge that enables me to help people in so many different ways, rather than just talking about, it's not just addiction. I can help specifically with that, but, physically, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, like I'm able to help in all of these areas now. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I just love the dedication you've put to it now, because you've seen, well, the impact it had on your life, but also, yeah, it kind of links back to before, okay, what am I doing here now? I've come back here. Now I can help other people, guide them through their own journey. It's, it's incredible. So cool. And yeah, there's so many different elements we can piece together there. I guess one question that came to mind just now was, like, how do you feel like day to day? Do you ever find yourself like ever getting caught up in the, again, let's say like 3D worlds, like the basic human stuff? Do you still find that, okay, you can get caught up in it and then you kind of have to snap out of the illusion in a way? Or because of your like trainings and your experiences, you're always able to sort of stay grounded?
I think it definitely varies, man. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in that kind of stuff, in the day-to-day things. I've made some adjustments in my life. Like, I don't watch the news. I'm very aware of my intake because I know what I'm like, and I'll get kind of drawn in and end up being very angry and hating the world and want to go do something crazy and like join some freedom fighters somewhere or do something like that, So I do have to make some adjustments just for myself personally to avoid that. But I do feel like I can navigate most things, but it doesn't mean that they're not there. Like, life still happens to me, around me, stuff's still going on. I'm just able to show up in a better way. It doesn't mean that any of the problems or the struggles have disappeared. They're still there. They're still the same. As people are people, right? We're all human at the end of the day, and my family are still the same people that they were, and there's still the same issues going on, and there's still, the people that I care about close to me, my friends, like, they all have issues, but I'm able to, and I have stuff going on too, but I understand what's going on though, right? When something's happening, I'm like, okay, cool. I see it. I know what it is. Doesn't mean I'm not affected by it. Doesn't mean I don't get upset and I don't get angry and I don't occasionally lose it in traffic at people for no reason. Because I'm still human, but it's compared to what it was or what I was like, say 10 years ago. Oh man, I was just running on rage. Now everything's very settled within me, like circumstance-wise. Everything's okay. Like, I wouldn't say, I mean, there's been some big changes, but at the same time, it's still the same day-to-day stuff that everyone else has to deal with. I feel like I'm just blessed that I have some tools to be able to navigate it and to be able to understand where the issues within me lie, allows me to give them space and to be able to work through them. But it doesn't mean, I think an important thing that I've learned along this journey is if something comes up within me, okay, cool, we'll just clear it, get rid of it. Sometimes you have to sit with stuff. Frustration comes, like being upset comes, like loneliness. All these kind of things still happen, but it's about giving them space and not suppressing them, about being grounded. Like, because I am more grounded and safe within myself, I'm able to hold those feelings rather than suppress them or push them away. And that's when the problems have come in the past for me. Because it's like, oh no, I don't like that. Push it over there or squeeze it down or let it out in the wrong way. Now I'm able to like, okay, cool, sit, give it some space, hold it. Doesn't mean it disappears, but yeah, the groundedness is important.
Yeah. On something there, which was like family, friends, and to explore how you found that transition for yourself. You got on your own growth journey, your healing journey, and then the people around you, they perhaps haven't changed so much, or they're just living in a different way to you are. How have you dealt with that? Because that can be challenging, and I think one of the most challenging things about growing yourself is realizing that, well, not everyone else is going to necessarily want to grow around you or grow themselves. So I'd love to hear about your experience with that.
Yeah, it's a good point. And so when going back to when I first entered into recovery, I believed that I had a lot of friends. I got sober and all of these people stopped calling me. They weren't my friends, they were my drinking buddies, right? But I thought they were my friends. So my circle has changed a lot over the years, and it's probably smaller now than it's ever been, friend-wise. But the people that I have close to me now, they are family. Like, they're brothers and sisters, and we're really close in that way. And as you say about, those that are perhaps not on their own journey, or maybe they are and they're not growing in the way that I think that they should, or I've learned that I can't have conversations like this with everyone, including family members, even talking about work and stuff like that. I'm not going to sit down with my mum talking about some spirit release session that I had last week, because she doesn't know what I'm talking about and she's not that interested. She's happy that I'm doing what I want to do and I'm living a fulfilled life, but the particulars, you know what I mean? It's just learning to be selective, which is challenging in itself, right? Because I just want to be all of me all of the time. I don't want to have to discern where I can talk about certain things and where I can't. But, you do have to kind of read the room a little bit. And also, early on, I found that as I started to grow and understand myself better, and I found some tools that work for me, I did become a bit like evangelical with them, and I was trying to get everyone on board, and I'm like, oh, look, I found this thing, it works, it's going to work for you too, come and do this, and like, look, here's this tool I learned in therapy, and blah, 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 and some people are just like, dude, go away. Just no. So it can be challenging for sure. Just kind of, yeah. And it's not, I don't see it as a hierarchical thing or a competition of, oh, well, I'm here and you're here sort of thing. Everyone is on their own journey, and whatever that looks like for them is for them. And I think the importance is for me to not judge and just allow people to be themselves, which is practice. It's not always that easy when things are glaringly obvious for somebody else, or perhaps when their issues are causing you issues, It's a very nuanced thing to kind of work through. It's not a black and white issue. It's
all of a growth journey itself. Yeah, definitely so. I've had to really sit down with myself over my journey and make sure I'm, not trying to change people, not trying to fix people, and concentrate on myself, acceptance, and Yeah, I think I find when you can really get to that place where there isn't, I think naturally it's in our nature to make these perhaps assumptions or judgments sometimes, but I think as long as we're keeping that guy in check, then yeah, things can be a lot more manageable.
Yeah, and I think with that as well, it's not from a malicious place, right? Because if you're with somebody that you care about, a friend or a family member, and you can see from your point of view some places where they could perhaps improve their lives or their well-being or their state at that time, then you kind of want to share that to help them. It's not always received in that way, so you do so I don't think it's necessarily from a bad place, but yeah, that ability to just hold people where they are is needed. And I, reflecting back on my own journey, people did that for me. So,
That's a great point. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been a very powerful story, brother.
Thank you.
We could go down many other rabbit holes, I'm sure. As we do a part 2 in the future.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, more and go find a focus area, go deep on that. Yeah, really cool. What we'll do, we'll head into the closing traditions of the podcast.
Cool.
There's 3 questions. The first 2 I ask at the end of each episode, and the third one is asked by a member of the Growth Voyage community, someone who listens to the podcast. The first one, nice and simple, but it's a song recommendation.
Oh, say simple. I've got a lot of songs in my head right now. Probably the last song that I listened to, will go with that. Something Loud by Jimmy Eat World. I listened to that on the way here, so we'll go with that. It's a good song.
What genre is that?
It's kind of like indie rock, sort of, yeah.
Did you find that your music taste has transitioned since your experiences, perhaps, or you've been a bit more conscious of words and energy and stuff? Or
I think I have become a bit more aware of what people are saying in songs, but I think like what I listen to. So I've always been a bit of a heavy metal guy at heart, and I listen to a lot more. Sort of more devotional music, more soft, like ambient type stuff. But I'm still a metalhead at heart, man. I've still, my Spotify playlist will go from like some handpan music to Slipknot and back again and kind of everything in between. So, yeah.
I relate to that. It's like you look at the on repeat and it's like 5 to 8 hertz, and then you've got techno house, and then you've got, I don't know, like John Lennon.
That's it, man.
Yeah. Second one is a book recommendation.
Oh, okay. So there's a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Incredible. Changed my life. I recommend it to everyone that I know. It's such a good book.
Yeah, it changed my life as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was what really shifted things for me. I think there were like 3 books that really like fundamentally shifted my belief system, and that was one of it. I think it's like a game changer if you're just looking to understand yourself better, but then also, for me, it made me realize that we're a lot more than here we are. I didn't need to go to out of this world to experience that. So yeah, great, wicked suggestion. Love that.
Brilliant.
The final question comes in from one of the Growth Voyage members, and one comes in from Sasha Myron, who asked, if you could live as long as you want, how long would that be, and what do you want to have achieved, and where do you go after that?
Wow. That's a deep question. It's an interesting one because I'm a little bit torn of, I'd like to live forever. But at the same time, I think knowing that there's an end date gives you some impetus to do something, right? Knowing that this is going to come to an end at some point, and also not knowing when that is. I quite like the unknown factor because it's good motivation for me, because I want to, it sounds a bit, I want this world to be a better place than when I arrived. going through what I have, and we've only just kind of touched on a few things, I would, if those experiences allow me to prevent one other person from going through what I did, happy man. Like, that's it. Change has been made. If I'm able to impact more than that, even better. So, yeah, I wouldn't want it to be a forever and open-ended thing because, you know, from my experience, we end up there anyway. So once we pass on. So, yeah, great question, though.
Yeah. Man, I'm really looking forward to part 2 and go into past lives and all sorts. It was interesting you mentioned the kind of negative spirits as well, because it's been something that I've been exploring myself, and it seems to come up a lot for people, and not a lot of people know about it. So I think we'll save that rabbit hole for next time.
Sounds good.
Leave it for the teaser. Richard, where can people find you if they want to connect with you and hear more about all the things that you offer?
So I have a website, which is soaringraven.net. And also my Instagram is at soaringraven holistic healing. So yeah, get in touch with me via either one of those links to get in touch and ways in which I can help. And if anyone wants to have a chat, you know, just make contact and we have a little free 15-minute call, see what's going on and take it from there.
Where did you come up with the name Soaring Raven?
So I've always been fascinated by ravens. Always, my whole life. But I couldn't quite pinpoint why. I've just been fascinated by them. They're really intelligent problem solvers and can imitate humans, animals around them. And they're also kind of known for being messengers from the other side. They're able to sort of move between worlds and bring back information. And in the last few years, one of my spirit guides has become a raven. So it's something I've been toying with for a long time, and it just all came together.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. Richard, this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.